Hey fellas, Racing here from Wild Sunny Farms, and today I'm going to be showing a clip of me and David Burns. Me and him were talking about Varroa mites, and many of you know that there's been so many people talking about it on YouTube and many places, so I had to cut this down and show this little clip of it. If you weren't able to watch the full interview, I suggest you go watch it. I'll leave a link in the description below or leave a little card up here. You can go check it out, but this is just a little clip about Varroa mites. If you want to know a little something about Varroa mites, please watch the full thing, and let's do it.
For me, when I started beekeeping, Varroa mites had just kind of gotten a foothold, and they weren't in my hives or anything yet, but they quickly kind of spread and finally got caught up with me in my hives. And I think at that time I had 2 hives, and gosh, I mean those hives died so quick, it was unbelievable. And then you start hearing all across the country what's going on, and it's just breathtaking. It's just unbelievable. But the Varroa mite is it's a devilish creature in that it just is a parasite that takes over a colony. It comes into a hive and begins to suck on the hemolymph, the fat bodies of the bees. And while it's doing that, it has the reputation of spreading viruses through those dirty needles that it pierces the bees or the pupae with. And it's just devastating because bees feed each other mouth to mouth, and they're feeding their larvae with mandibular royal jelly from mandibular glands. Those viruses start infecting the colony, and you can imagine what it would be like during COVID if everybody fed each other mouth to mouth. It would have wiped out all
Yeah.
humans. But that's what bees are doing, and so these viruses are so hard on bees. When they first came, we started throwing some big guns at them right off the bat. Fluvalvinate, Coumaphos, very, very, very aggressive and dangerous chemicals at them, and that was what we got given to us, and to try to combat them at that point. But then there was wisdom that followed, that beekeepers and science started saying there's got to be something better, because we started realizing a lot of these chemicals we were using had the potential to be absorbed into the wax. And that would actually cause queens and drones to be sterile in reproduction. It would really hurt their reproductive organs. So we started backing away and saying, how do we get off this chemical treadmill? I mean, it's just like, at first it was this survival. How do we keep bees alive? Throw chemicals at them. And then everybody started reaching for anything, whatever silver spoon that we could find, that what would be the next thing that wouldn't be so dangerous and hard as chemicals. And so over the years, there's been a lot of studies and science done and achieved, actually. So a great level of success with treatments, not just natural treatments or synthetic treatments, but a lot of mechanical treatments like the green drone comb. And a lot of these things are showing that they do work. Now, they don't work on the level, like you just can't put a drone comb in your hive and trap mites and all is over. Everything is done. I think all of these methods that we have finally sort of allowed to rise to the top, there's some that show that if we use them, not all at the same time, but we trade off, or we try a whole bunch of these different tools that we have, then we can keep our mite levels relatively low. And so it works pretty well.
Yeah, I
And
think
there was a while that I got into trying to control it without any use of treatments at all. I was using screen bottom boards, and that's been shown to actually reduce mites to, I think, what most people would agree would be a small degree. And then we have green drone comb trapping, and so mites jump on the development of the drones because they're under the caps longer than a worker by 3 days. And so we use green drone comb. I started using, I don't know where I came up with the idea. I don't know if I heard it somewhere or it just dawned on me or what, but a long time ago, I came up with the idea that I could actually trap or cage up my queen for a week, and then I would have success in reducing the mites, because if you reduce the amount of brood by a week, say, you could actually prevent more mites from developing in in that brood. It's kind of like I realized that, why were Africanized bees, Apis mellifera scutellata, why were they having better luck fighting off mites than our bees? And so I realized they swarmed so much that they were constantly breaking their brood cycle. And I was like, aha, I'm going to do that on my bees and see if that helps. That really does help a lot. But I'm like everybody else. I'll try all these things and they'll work sometimes really well. And then other times on other hives, it doesn't work so well. And you have to kind of bring out the big guns. And, but we do have a lot of treatments available like Formic Pro, Apigard, Apivar. I mean, we have today a lot of things that when we keep trading them off and, switching them out, they seem to do pretty good under our current Mite impact. And Grayson, I think that, I have conversations with a lot of beekeepers and scientists and PhD entomologists. And some of those conversations sometimes go like, well, if we would have just not done anything, then maybe the bees could have built up some sort of tolerance or resistance, ability to fight off mites. But by doing the way we're doing it, we're just setting ourselves up for failure because the mites that do survive what we throw at them are super mites that keep getting worse and worse. And but all of that may have some merit, but it wasn't available. It wasn't going to be a thing because there was no way to get everybody in the country just to sit back and watch, billions and billions of bees perish because of mites. Yeah, it just wasn't something that was going to happen. We couldn't get everybody on the. Nobody was ever going to attempt that. It just had to be, what do we do? How do we kill them?
That's right. Because I think bees are one of the most crucial insects on our world. Because so like if all of them perish, like you said, like if nobody treats, nobody does anything, then they're all numbers are going to go drastically down. So then then the bees will keep on going down until So I think same thing. But there are so many, like whenever I started beekeeping, we didn't treat either. We just try to stay natural as possible. But then
Mhm.
last year 2022, we had some old Apivar strips laying around, and I thought I'd just go ahead and treat because I think treating may be the better side of it because keep the mites down. That's real. It's gonna keep the bees healthy. So I started to treat, and this year I'm gonna treat even more. Get some more supplies for that kind of stuff. So, but we did kind of same, similar story for us. When we started
Mhm.
beekeeping, 2000, whenever we started beekeeping, it was like right before COVID hit.
Yeah.
Right before then, and then we started beekeeping. We had like ups and downs sometimes, but then because like a lot of bees died. So then that's when I thought maybe they're dying because of the Romites. So then that's when I started the treat. So that's kind of what happened. But
Yeah.
now the next thing is this still relates to the Veromite is the treatments because you have Apivar, Formic Pro, Apigard, all these different OA. So I wonder if we could talk a little about what's your personal experience with all these and which one do you think may be the best of the choice of the selection.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm wanting to get a little bit in that tomorrow in my video. Uh, it's interesting all these different treatments. Everybody that I have a mentorship program where I mentor about 200 beekeepers, and but others in addition to my B Team 6 team will ask me, please tell me what should I do, you know, and I'll have YouTube comments where people will leave a comment, right? And they'll say, hi, this is, there's maybe not a name on their comment. This is Billy Bob 76. How should I treat my mites? Well, I have no idea where in the world they live. I don't know where on the
Right.
planet they exist. I don't know if they're in Australia. I don't know if they're, in California or up north somewhere. I don't know. So there's no way that there's not a recipe. I don't think that you go to the doctor and you have strep throat or something, and he might give you 500 milligrams of amoxicillin. That's pretty much a recipe for knocking out a bacteria. But you take something like a mite, in a colony supercell organism that's just, how do you decide on a treatment? You have to first test for mites and see what your levels are at, and based on that, then you have to ask yourself, what's my temperature range? And then you have to ask yourself, how much brood is in the hive? Because how you treat them with some of these treatments are based on temperature, amount of brood in the colony, the time of year it is. And so there's no way to give an answer that is going to be like the magic thing for everybody.
Right.
I think the answer is going to be if each beekeeper can really understand the life cycle of the mite, and then they can understand they need to know every single method available to them. And it doesn't take that much time. You can grab any of these big beekeeping companies, magazines. They usually have a section on treatments, and they'll have a section there with Apigard, Apivar, Forming Pro, all the things that are out there today, OA. And they will basically have a description in there, which ones you can use with honey supers on or off, and temperatures. And then you just have to, if you have to, make some index cards and put each of those on there and write down, you can quickly say, I can't use this one with honey supers on, or I can't use this one if it's over 85, 89 degrees. So I have to find the right temperature. So I think all that said, I think for me, what I try to do is I'll use the simple things like green drone comb trapping. And then I'll also, most of my hives have screen bottom boards. And then I'll also break the queen's brood cycle in the months of July, August, and September for 7 days. Now, what's important to me is I have to get my mite levels almost down to zero around July or August before I start raising bees of winter physiology. Where I live, I got to have bees of winter physiology. It's a really interesting thing that bees can actually raise bees in late summer, early fall that will live 4 to 6 months. They're different. And so these bees of winter physiology, I can't allow them to be parasitized by mites. And
Okay.
so if I can reduce my mites, now what I've learned, Grayson, is if I can get way ahead of the game, because a lot of times we don't realize what's going on here. But so we have these mites in our hive, and oftentimes beekeepers only think of a mite as what it is. It's just a bug. It's a mite, an insect. But more than that, it is a spreader of these viruses that's hurting my bees. So if I wait too long and I allow these viruses to be in my bees, then what happens is, even if I kill the mites in the fall, I may have had too high a mite counts maybe in June, for example, or July. Before I get to the fall, I'm fighting a losing battle with the viruses. I can't stop the viruses. And so even though I reduce my mites, say if I played ignorant and I finally burned off my mites in September, these viruses live on in the bees beyond me killing my mites. So what I've tried to do, I've sort of backed the whole thing up, and I said, wait a minute, I need to start killing mites as soon as I can get in my hive in the spring. And I need to keep my mite levels 1 to 100 bees, or no more than 3 mites per 100 bees all year long. That will help me reduce my viruses in my colony, so I won't be trying to just be found with all these mites that are spreading the viruses. I can hold my viral level down, the virus load. So that's what I feel like real successful in achieving. Now, do I have 100% success in that? Absolutely not. There are some times that last year I had a hive or two that I was throwing everything at, and I couldn't get the mite levels down. It was insane. I threw Formic Pro, I threw Apivar at them, and I had a hard time getting mite levels down on 2 specific hives. I don't know if it was just the batch of product that I was using or what, but everything else responded normally, like it normally does, and real well. So I don't feel that personally I have to worry about mites, but they all do. Occasionally, they all will come and bite us, even though we are doing everything we can because of the viruses. Even though And there's sometimes I've had high mites in the hive, and those hives done really well. They're not dying from viruses. Some of those mites aren't strong transmitters or carriers of viruses. So it's not always an indication of how the hive's going to do based on what your mite levels are. But we know that if you have high mite levels, you're going to have a higher chance of having more viruses. So we have to respond.
Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed that small clip, and we'll see you on the next beekeeping video.